Okay, y'all. So I decided to come on here real quick and talk about a little something. Um, well, how I'm gonna start this off because I don't want this to just be in and I just be talking about random little stuff. Let me get into it. Um, so I was watching this video and this lady was spending time with her son, well, with cutting her son's hair, and she was spending time with her other children. And I noticed, like, out of all the videos that I watched, maybe of hers, maybe of other people's, it's just a mixture of everything. And it's not just her child, and it's not just the one child. I noticed how some children, you got some children that will whine about everything. It's like almost to the point they so used to it, it's almost to the point where it's becoming that's how they talk. Or they do that because they so used to doing it that gets them what they want, so they continue to do it and talk like babies and whine. Yeah, I understand that you can be of a certain age, but sometimes it's growing and you have to grow up. Even though he's a kid and they children, they don't understand that yet. Their minds is still developing. But I mean, it's kind of like on the parent because you should know, tell your child or show your child or teach your child how to talk. Like, help their speech, help the way they talk. Tell them that whining all the time about every little thing, like to the point where they sound like they're crying and using a baby voice and one of those little light, high-pitched voices and with a slight hint of annoyance in there and demanding, and they kind of like throwing it back to being like a little bitty newborn and crying is not going to always get you what you want, not in the real life. You can't grow up and go get and have a job, and just because your boss wants you to go do something, you start using that crying, high-pitched, sad baby voice. It's not going to work all the time. I mean, this little boy here, it was like just whining because he didn't want to eat his food. And then you got some other children that I seen that in other videos that's like, well, mommy, like they just be whining about everything. And then you got the know-it-all children. Let me get on that part. You'll have like a 4 or 5-year-old that swears they telling you everything that happened back in 1960. Or telling you about their grandpa when their grandpa was little. Like, how do you know all this stuff when you 4 years old? Or you 5 years old? Or 6? You don't know nothing but as much as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, or a 6-year-old should know. You ain't been living that long to be able to tell somebody who's old enough to be your mother, your father, your auntie, your uncle, and stuff like that. Or somebody, your grandparent, old enough to be your grandparent. And I just looked that up. That says something about an egotistical person, egotistical behavior, because adults do it too. So I just took it as like, okay, this is in children too. Children do it too. So I'm like, egotistical children. Like, they feel like they always have to be right and everything is about them. Or they know everything. So it's like the know-it-all. I'm like, I've experienced this firsthand. Trust me. But it just don't make no sense. You only been living 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or God knows however many years, which is a blessing. How are you supposed to know stuff that happened decades before you was born? Like 30 years before you got here. 20 years before you got here. Hell, even 10 years before you got here. And I mean, it just, I don't know. I just don't get it. But I just want to come on here and talk about that real quick. I'm in this video right here. Y'all have a blessed night. Bye, y'all.